Let the galaxy record this day. The king boomed, voice amplified by resonant chambers hidden within the hall. Humanity, that small infestation from a spiral's edge, has been erased. Their chaos has ended. Their threat is extinguished. Their extinction is the crown jewel of my reign. A roar of applause, claps, screeches, and tail thumps cascaded through the chamber. Alien diplomats turned to one another, muttering jests about primitive humans and their ridiculous weapons, about how it took them so long to die. One avian senator with bright feathers leaned toward a reptilian peer. Fragile bipeds. They cracked like eggshells. Why did they ever frighten us? Laughter spilled from their rows. A gelatinous envoy burbled. The humans thought themselves predators. Now they are fertilizer for real predators. Not all joined the revelry. In a shadowed corner, the elder of a squid-like species stirred uneasily. His long tendrils curled tight against his chest. Legends whispered in his ocean spoke of the smiling predators, creatures who waged war as if it were an art of patience. He did not laugh. He did not cheer. Instead, he whispered to his translator orb, "Beware silence when predators vanish. Silence is their camouflage." His words were drowned beneath the crowd's applause. The king spread his chitinous arms, savoring the chamber's approval. Never again shall their crude iron songs darken our skies. Never again shall their stubborn defiance wound our armies. Their ashes scatter across a burned cradle world, their colonies reduced to vapor. They are finished. The word finished echoed, ringing hollowly through the vaulted ceiling. Senators applauded again, though beneath the celebration ran an undercurrent of relief too fragile to disguise. Even in victory, some had always feared the humans more than they would ever admit. Then the doors at the far end of the hall opened with the softest sigh. No horns announced her. No guards proclaimed her name. She simply entered, step by deliberate step, like a guest arriving late to a play she had been written into centuries before. She was small against the grandeur of the Senate, a human woman, 30 years of age, dressed in diplomatic black with no ornaments save for the faint shine of polished boots. Her hair was bound with austere precision, her shoulders squared though her frame was slight. She moved with calm gravity, her eyes steady, as though the whole assembly belonged to her gaze alone. The chamber fell to a hush not of reverence, but of bewilderment. A species declared extinct had no business entering the Senate alive. Some whispered that it was theater, a staged performance by the king to mock the fallen. Others muttered hologram, trick, puppet. But those who had studied humanity knew the name whispered in older records, Baba Yaga, the witch of human legends. The name soldiers spoke before death. She reached the center of the chamber and lifted her chin. Her voice, though soft, carried with remarkable clarity. "I come as envoy. My name is irrelevant. You may call me representative of the extinct." The silence cracked with laughter. Senators bellowed, slapped their appendages against railings, hissed jokes into translators. One insectoid general barked, "Shall we debate with phantoms now?" A mammalian noble sneered. Perhaps she escaped in a cupboard while the rest burned. Even the king chittered a rasping laugh. "You dare mock my decree with this ghost, this theater?" But the woman did not flinch. Her eyes lingered on the king, unblinking. "I mock nothing. I am merely late to your funeral speech." The humorless weight of her tone shifted the air. Some laughed louder to cover unease. Others glanced at her hands, calloused, faintly scarred, not the hands of a diplomat, but of one who had survived in blood and fire. A lizard-like senator narrowed his eyes. "Explain yourself, ghost." She folded her hands, posture impeccably polite, the gesture of a guest before a host. "Humanity," she said with a faint smile, "is poor at extinction. We have never mastered the art. We die often, yes, in millions, in billions even, but we do not end. We spread. We endure. We linger in the cracks you overlook. Like weeds, like cockroaches, like bad songs you cannot forget no matter how loudly you try to silence them." A ripple of murmurs ran through the chamber. A few senators chuckled at the strange metaphors, unfamiliar with cockroaches or weeds. Others frowned, sensing that her words were not humor, but warning disguised as jest. One avian diplomat tilted her head. So you claim there are survivors? Hiding in rubble? This is no empire, no threat. The woman's lips curved just enough to suggest amusement. We need not be an empire. It only needs soil. The king's mandibles clicked in irritation. You speak riddles. The galaxy is cleansed of your kind. The cradle world is ash. Your colonies are gone. Your fleet scattered into void. I am told your ships fled into black holes themselves to avoid surrender. And yet, she answered gently, here I stand. For the first time, the senators quieted in earnest. Her very presence contradicted their celebration. The king leaned forward, multifaceted, eyes narrowing. Then, you are the last. A remnant. A trophy. I could crush you beneath my claw, and your species would vanish, truly. Her expression did not change. She offered a small, polite bow of the head. You may, but you should ask yourself, does a species that truly perishes send a diplomat into the heart of its enemy's senate? Or does it send something else? The unease thickened. The squid-like elder whispered again, voice shaking. She smiles too much. Predators smile before they bite. An insectoid guard hissed toward the king, asking permission to seize her. The king lifted a claw to still him, watching her with predatory suspicion. What purpose brings you here, ghost of earth? To remember, she said softly. To speak what must be spoken. And perhaps, her gaze swept the assembly, to offer you mercy you do not deserve. The chamber erupted. Senators shrieked in outrage, scoffed, hurled accusations of blasphemy. Mercy from an extinct species? Absurd. Impossible. Yet beneath the outrage lay a crawling fear, the way prey animals sense a hunter in the tall grass even before they see the shadow. She raised her voice only slightly, enough to glide over their noise. Your histories will tell you humans were reckless, brutal, and doomed. That we destroyed ourselves as much as others. You will forget the other half. That we endure because we plan, we wait, we choose our moment. We smile while bleeding, and you mistake it for surrender. You mistake courtesy for weakness. You mistake patience for absence. Her eyes found the king again. That is why your declaration rings hollow. The king slammed his clawed fist against the throne's arm, shattering the crystalline armrest. You dare challenge me in my chamber? You dare suggest humans yet live? I will tear the truth from you, limb by limb. Her smile broadened just slightly, enough for those who watched her closely to feel the cold edge behind it. You may try, but you will find truth has already been seated in your walls, your codes, your armies. It listens even now. A faint tremor rippled through the floor, imperceptible to most, but enough to make the squid elder's tendrils coil tight. He whispered a prayer to a god of the abyss. He knew the taste of approaching storms. The king gestured sharply. Guards began to advance, their armor glinting with the Senate's light, weapons leveled at the lone figure. The chamber buzzed with anticipation, some eager for spectacle, others desperate to see the woman silenced before her words rooted deeper. But she did not retreat. She did not raise her hands. She only stepped one pace closer to the throne, her voice a quiet thread woven through the charged silence. Kings have declared many things in their reigns. They declared empires eternal. They declared enemies broken. They declared themselves gods. And yet all those kings are dust. Perhaps extinction is not ours to claim, but yours. The guards hesitated. Something in her calm unnerved them, as though they approached not a fragile remnant, but a predator waiting for permission to strike. The chamber's air felt heavier, thick with a dread no one could name. She tilted her head, her eyes glinting under the Senate's crystalline lights. Check under your bed before you sleep tonight, Your Majesty. You may find the extinct already waiting. The chamber went still, silence so deep it seemed to devour sound itself. The king's mandibles clicked open, a retort rising in fury. But in that instant, before he could speak, the Senate's great doors boomed shut of their own accord, echoing like the sealing of a tomb. The great doors remained sealed, their metallic groans still echoing through the vaulted hall like a dirge. Even the buzzing translators hesitated, faltering mid-syllable as though machines themselves had grown uncertain. The guards froze, weapons half-raised. All eyes turned toward the lone human standing in the center of the chamber. She did not move, her stillness more commanding than the king's thunder. Her smile, faint and unshaken, made the silence intolerable. The king straightened slowly, mandibles flaring. "Tricks," he rasped. "Cheap tricks to startle a senate of empires. You believe doors closing make you powerful." Her voice flowed soft and measured. "No, I believe your reaction makes me powerful." The chamber muttered. Some scoffed, others shifted uneasily. A feathered senator raised his crest. "She is nothing but a remnant playing riddles." Why does the king grant her words? Because he had to. The king's pride would not allow silence to win. He leaned forward. "You claim survival. You claim your species crawls in the dark like vermin. Prove it. Where are your fleets? Where is your empire? Show us something beyond smug smiles and closing doors." She folded her arms lightly, posture composed. "Ah, fleets and empires. You measure life by monuments and armies. That is why you misjudged us. We are less cathedral, more fungus. You can burn the forest, salt the earth, and still we rise in the cracks of your tiles." A ripple of amusement rolled through one side of the chamber. A reptilian warlord with jagged horns smirked, baring rows of teeth. "Fungus, weeds, cockroaches. Your metaphors are as pitiful as your species. Do you mean to frighten us with gardening?" Her gaze flicked toward him, expression cool. "Gardening frightens only those who never check what grows behind their walls." The chamber chuckled, though unease clung beneath the laughter. She spoke without raising her voice, yet every word found its mark like a knife drawn cleanly across silk. A gelatinous envoy burbled mockingly. "We studied your people. You wasted centuries slaughtering yourselves with sticks, then chemicals, then machines that shook your skies. Hardly the work of tacticians. Extinction was a mercy for such clumsy brutes." She inclined her head, polite as ever. "Slaughter, yes. Messy, graceless. And yet, each time we slaughtered ourselves, we improved. You mistook rehearsal for collapse. We were practicing war the way your children practice instruments." Her tone dipped to almost a whisper. "We perfected the song." The laughter faltered. The squid elder, long silent, murmured a single phrase into his translator. They sang in silence. His words went mostly unnoticed, buried beneath a tide of uneasy chatter. The king slammed his clawed hand against the dais, sparks scattering. "Enough of riddles. You are a last ember. One spark in a void. A flame dies when crushed. Admit your loneliness before my court." Her eyes glittered with an amusement too precise to be accidental. "Loneliness is relative. One wolf seems alone until you notice the forest watching." The chamber rippled with a murmur that refused to settle. Senators glanced at the walls, as though shadows might conceal teeth. The reptilian warlord hissed in irritation, scales bristling. "This is nonsense. She has no proof. She bluffs." She turned her gaze to him, smile faint and cutting. "Bluffing requires fear of discovery. I tell truths wrapped politely, so you do not choke swallowing them." The avian senator flared her feathers again. "And what truths do you bring? That humanity hides like parasites in forgotten corners? That is not survival. That is begging for scraps." The human inclined her head as though conceding the point, though her voice remained serene. "Begging, yes. Scraps, yes. But consider, a parasite survives every empire. When the host dies, it moves on." A hush crept through the chamber like fog. The word parasite carried an echo that unsettled even the proudest. Some shifted in their seats. A mammalian noble whispered, "She is not here to beg. She is here to feed." The king rose from his throne, his carapace flaring with menace. "You stand here, tiny ghost, and insult my court with riddles and vermin talk. Do you think yourself feared?" She did not flinch. Instead, she allowed her voice to soften further, forcing the hall to strain toward her. "I think fear is what you feel when you cannot explain the silence under your bed. It is not my task to convince you. It is your task to survive the realization. The squid elder's tendrils quivered, eyes wide. He whispered, almost praying, "Extinction is camouflage." His translator repeated the words, thin and trembling. The guards moved again at the king's signal, advancing step by step, armor gleaming. Yet the senators could not look away from the woman in black. She clasped her hands behind her back, as if lecturing a classroom rather than facing execution. "You declared us extinct," she said, pacing slowly, voice even. "That is bold. Empires crave closure. It makes them sleep easier. But I wonder, did you check every asteroid, every derelict ship, every algorithm seated in your NAV systems? Or did you declare victory because it was easier than checking your closets?" The chamber's lights flickered, just once, brief as a blink. A murmur surged through the crowd. The king roared, "Sabotage." She raised her brows, feigning innocence. "Oh no, surely not sabotage. Surely the greatest empire in the galaxy cannot be compromised by an extinct people." The laughter that followed was nervous, sharp-edged. Senators exchanged glances. Someone hissed, "She toys with us." Another whispered, "Or warns." The reptilian warlord growled, rising to his full height. "Enough. If this ghost speaks true, show proof. Show us humans living. Otherwise she is a fraud, and we waste our time." She stopped pacing, looking up at him with a gaze calm as still water. Then she slipped her gloves off, one finger at a time, as though unhurried by death. She lifted her hands, palms open to the Senate. Calluses lined her fingers. Old scars etched faint silver across the skin. Not the hands of a diplomat. The hands of one who had gripped weapons, who had built and broken with equal force. "These," she said, "are my proof. Hands that worked in ashen hunger. Hands that buried and built. A dead species leaves no hands like these." The chamber quieted, silence thicker than any applause. The king's mandibles ground together. One survivor proves nothing. Her smile curved, polite yet chilling. "Oh, Majesty, I am not here to prove survival. I am here to remind you extinction is never declared by kings. It is declared by time, and time has not declared us finished." The squid elder pressed his tendrils against his chest, trembling. "She speaks the old truth," he whispered. The smile before the strike. A mammalian senator barked in frustration, trying to dispel the dread coiling through the chamber. "This is madness. Your species is dust. The king crushed you. You are one remnant with sharpened words." The woman inclined her head, expression still serene. "And yet my words wound more than your fleets. Strange, isn't it, that a remnant should unsettle so many proud empires?" Her calm pressed heavier than any scream. Even the guard slowed, steps faltering. The king's rage vibrated the chamber, but beneath it lay something he could not banish: doubt. She let silence breathe, then spoke the words that cut deepest. "Your empire is vast, yes. Your armies unmatched, yes. And yet in your heart you fear us. You mock us because you remember. You laugh at weeds because you dread the day they choke your palace. You call us parasites because you know parasites win in the end." The hall shifted with unease. For every alien who scoffed, another shifted uncomfortably, their eyes betraying doubt. The king slammed his claw down again, voice thunderous. "Enough. Guards, seize her now. End this game." The guards surged forward, weapons drawn. But just as they neared her, the Senate lights dimmed again, this time longer, shadows stretching across banners and walls. Holographic displays flickered with static. A handful of consoles sparked, screens rippling with fragments of code no one had authorized. The woman did not move. She smiled faintly, her eyes glinting with that predator calm. "You asked for proof. Proof tends to arrive when you least wish it." The guards froze, uncertain whether to advance or retreat. The senators whispered frantically, voices rising like a storm. She lifted her chin, voice low and unwavering. "Extinction? Perhaps. But if you must know the truth, Majesty, You declared humanity dead before checking whether the grave was empty. The king opened his mandibles to roar a retort, but the words died as the great banners behind him flickered, not cloth, but projection, overwritten with an unfamiliar emblem. A circle split by 3 jagged lines, a symbol that no alien could place, but every soldier present recognized from captured whispers. Human. The human emblem glowed across the Senate walls, stark against the banners of alien empires. A circle torn by 3 jagged lines, crude yet unforgettable, pulsed in red as though painted in blood. The chamber stilled, silence sweeping through rows of species that prided themselves on never bowing to fear. Yet in that moment, every senator stared as if the emblem itself stared back. The king slammed a claw against the dais. Sparks scattered. Sabotage, he thundered. Holographic interference. Guards, purge the systems, seize the intruder. But the systems did not obey. Screens across the chamber rippled with static before resolving into fragments of human script, indecipherable to alien eyes, but unmistakable in intent. Lines of code scrolled like scripture, each one embedding itself deeper into the Senate's infrastructure. Doors sealed. Locks clamped. Translators hissed with feedback. The vast chamber groaned as though the building itself had turned hostile. The guards hesitated, confusion thickening. The human woman, Baba Yaga, remained perfectly still, as though none of it surprised her. She regarded the emblem calmly, as though admiring an old friend. Then she spoke with the same soft cadence she had used all along. You celebrated extinction without checking your own arteries. You thought us gone, but we were already inside your blood. A senator with plated scales roared, his tail striking the floor. Trickery. This is nothing but theater. He gestured wildly toward her. End her before the farce spreads. The guards advanced again, but slower now, their steps dragging beneath the weight of doubt. She did not raise her hands in surrender. Instead, she unbuttoned her diplomatic jacket with deliberate care, revealing beneath it a simple harness of leather and steel. No ornament, no crest, only utility. Holstered at her side gleamed a weapon of unmistakably human make. Compact, brutal, designed not for show but for killing. The sight rippled through the chamber like a cold wind. One avian diplomat gasped, feathers shivering. How did such a relic pass our scans? The king snarled, it matters not. She is one against thousands. Her smile tilted faintly. One is always enough. The first guard lunged, a towering insectoid encased in shimmering armor. With a movement so swift it seemed impossibly rehearsed, she sidestepped, seized his weapon arm, and twisted. The crack resounded through the chamber as armored joints snapped. She pivoted with precise economy, driving the guard into the floor, weapon wrenched free before his body landed. Gasps surged from the Senate. The reptilian warlord leaned forward, eyes narrowing. She fights like an apex, he muttered, unable to mask both fear and admiration. The second guard swung a blade toward her neck. She dropped low, rolling under the arc, rising behind him with her borrowed weapon pressed to the joint of his armor. A sharp burst, alien alloy shattered. He collapsed. 2 guards fallen, and she had barely moved more than 3 steps. She exhaled softly, as though bored, then looked up toward the throne. Majesty, if this is extinction, I must confess it feels familiar. The king's mandibles flared. He shouted for more guards. The chamber flooded with them, weapons humming, energy field sparking. Yet hesitation slowed them. None had expected a single unarmed human to dismantle their finest with such ease. She shifted her stance, shoulders loose, grip steady. Her eyes scanned them not like prey cornered by hunters, but like a hunter choosing where to strike first. She spoke, her tone almost conversational. You studied our wars. You counted our dead. But you never understood we count differently. We do not measure survival by cities or fleets. We measure by one thing only, how much pain we can bear before breaking. And we never break the way you think. Then she moved. The chamber erupted into chaos. Guards lunged, weapons blazing. She wove through them with terrifying grace, each movement honed by years of violence, distilled into muscle memory. Every shot she fired struck joints, gaps, throats. She improvised with efficiency, slamming one guard into another, ripping blades from hands, turning their own momentum against them. No flourish, no wasted motion. Only the inevitability of a predator that had killed too many times to waste time on spectacle. The senators screamed, shields flaring around their balconies. Some shouted for evacuation, others for countermeasures. Systems refused. The human code woven into their infrastructure had already locked every exit. Screens blazed with that emblem, pulsing like a heartbeat. Through the chaos, she never raised her voice, never lost composure. She spoke between strikes, her words slicing deeper than her weapon. You think us extinct because you burned our cradle. Yet ashes are soil. You think us scattered because our fleets fled. Yet scattering is how seeds take root. Another guard lunged. She caught his wrist, twisted, and broke him down with a single precise blow. She stepped over his body without pause. You thought extinction simple. You forgot we are not a species. We are a pattern. Patterns do not die, they replicate. The squid elder whispered to himself, tendrils quaking. They sang in silence, and now the silence is song. By the time half the guards lay groaning or still upon the floor, the rest faltered. Fear flickered in their compound eyes and scaled jaws. For the first time, the invincible Senate guards stepped back. She stopped then, not to rest, but to look once more at the king. Calm as though the chaos around her were no more than a rehearsal. She lowered the weapon slightly, her voice even. Do you see now? I am not the blade. I am only the hand holding it. Humanity is the blade. You believed it shattered. But blades are forged stronger after fire. The king bellowed, trying to crush doubt with sound. You are one human. We will drown you in numbers until you vanish into dust. She smiled, polite as ever. You still don't understand. I am not here to survive. I am here to deliver the message that survival is already complete. The chamber's lights pulsed. Across every screen, alien languages scrolled, each translating the same phrase, we are not extinct. The senators shouted over one another. Panic spread like contagion. The reptilian warlord's scales rattled as he hissed to his peers, this is no bluff. Their code is everywhere. Their hand is already in our systems. The king turned, desperate to reassert control. Find the breach. Cut it out. But his command fell flat. Systems answered not with obedience, but with a cold, unfamiliar voice, synthetic, human-built, echoing through the Senate speakers. Extinction status, denied. Probability of survival, certain. Activation, authorized. The sound chilled even the most arrogant species. It was not the woman speaking now. It was something seated long before, waiting in silence, hidden in the empire's veins. She tilted her head, eyes glinting. Your empire prided itself on control. Yet control is a cage, and cages are easiest to enter from the inside. We walked in while you were busy declaring victory. A senator with feathered plumage squawked, panic breaking her voice. She means fleets, hidden fleets. The woman chuckled softly, the sound devoid of mirth. Fleets are loud. We prefer whispers. Whispers are harder to kill. The surviving guards regrouped, trembling yet desperate. They charged again. She met them, her movements swifter now, less restrained. A blur of precision, a flash of steel drawn from her harness. A blade cut arcs in the light, every strike decisive. Alien blood stained the Senate floor in colors unfamiliar, green, violet, silver. But her hands did not tremble. The senators recoiled, horror twisting their faces. The squid elder covered his eyes with his tendrils, whispering, the witch walks again. When at last she stood alone among bodies, breath steady, she wiped the blade against her sleeve with ritual calm. Then she faced the throne once more. Majesty, she said, her voice unbroken, you mistake me for an assassin come to kill a king. I am no such thing. I am a herald. My purpose is not to kill you, but to remind you death is already walking through your halls. The king snarled, carapace rattling. Lies. Theater. But his eyes flicked to the sealed doors, the failing systems, the emblem still pulsing across the walls. Her smile held steady. Do you feel it? That shift in your chest? That is not anger. That is recognition. You are beginning to understand. The senators murmured in terror. Some whispered, "What if she is not the last?" Others hissed, "If she stands here, how many more stand elsewhere?" She lifted her chin. "Majesty, you declared us extinct. Yet even as you spoke those words, your empire carried us in its veins, in its codes, in the fear you never admitted. Extinction is not ours. It is yours. And tonight, you will taste the first note of the requiem we have written." The king rose fully from his throne, towering, trying to summon authority from size alone. His mandibles clattered as he bellowed, "What do you mean, human? What have you done?" She let the silence stretch, savoring the question, then spoke with quiet certainty. "I have done nothing. Humanity has already done it. I am only the one polite enough to tell you before the dark arrives." The Senate chamber shuddered. Somewhere deep beneath the city, something detonated. The lights flickered out, plunging the chamber into a darkness lit only by the red pulse of the human emblem. Darkness swallowed the Senate chamber. The only light came from the pulsing red emblem, glowing across the walls like the heartbeat of something alive and merciless. Senators whimpered in their balconies, their voices thin in the black. Guards pressed tighter to their weapons, though they no longer knew what to aim at. The air grew heavy, vibrating with the echo of distant detonations that throbbed through the floor like thunder beneath the skin of the world. The king's voice cut through the dark, harsh and trembling with fury. "What have you unleashed, human? What nightmare do you claim to carry into my halls?" The woman's calm voice threaded through the shadows. "Nightmares do not arrive. They wake." The chamber lights sputtered once, twice, then flared weakly to reveal the ruin she had left behind. Guards scattered in broken heaps, senators cowering in their balconies, the king towering at his throne, carapace gleaming like a black fortress. Yet even his height seemed diminished, his grandeur stripped by the pulse of the emblem. His empire no longer owned the silence. The silence belonged to her. She stepped forward, boots echoing in the vast hall. "You celebrated our death, but it was your funeral you arranged. You declared humanity gone, and in doing so, you gave us perfect camouflage. A dead species cannot be hunted, cannot be feared, cannot be resisted. We became a story, and stories spread deeper than armies." The king bared his mandibles, voice shaking the chamber. "You are one woman, one remnant. Do not speak as though you command an empire." Her smile was polite, chilling. "Empires are loud. I command silence. Silence carries farther." From beyond the chamber walls came a new sound. Sirens shrieking, alien alarms wailing across the city above. Senators turned their heads, whispering frantic questions. A feathered envoy shouted, "The fleets are fleets. They are reporting interference." The human woman's gaze did not leave the king. "When you hunted us, when you burned our colonies, did you never wonder why we ran so easily? Why we scattered instead of fought to the last?" The king hissed, "Cowardice. Strategy," she answered softly. "You were meant to believe us broken. And while you hunted ashes, we walked into your networks, your supply lines, your very NAV systems. We taught our silence to sing in your machines. And now, when I stand here, you understand the song." Another tremor shook the chamber. The squid elder lifted his tendrils toward the sky and moaned, "The requiem begins." The king roared, striding down from his throne, his vast claws tearing grooves into the crystalline floor. "Enough riddles, witch. If you are here to kill me, strike and be done." She did not move faster. She did not raise her blade yet. She simply tilted her head as though studying a child's tantrum. "Killing you is unnecessary. You will fall with your empire." But perhaps she drew the blade in one smooth motion, its edge glinting red in the glow of the emblem. Perhaps kings must learn mortality face to face. With a shriek that rattled the chamber, the king lunged. His claws swung with the weight of centuries of dominion. She slipped aside, her movement sharp as lightning. and the claw struck the dais where she had stood, shattering it into shards. She slashed once, quick as a whisper, and sparks flew from the crack across his armored chest. He staggered back, shock flickering across his multifaceted eyes. Impossible. She exhaled, calm, blade steady. Everything is impossible until it is not. The duel tore through the chamber, his vast claws slamming down like falling towers, her body weaving through gaps with ruthless precision. Each strike from her was measured, efficient, cutting into joints, prying weakness from what had seemed indestructible. The senators screamed and scrambled in their balconies as shards rained down. Guards tried to intervene, only to be cut down in the crossfire of claw and blade. The king bellowed, "You cannot win. You are prey. You are dust." Her voice rose only once, sharp enough to pierce the chaos. "We are predators who learned to wear dust as armor." At last, he faltered, one claw dragging heavy, ichor spilling thick and green across the floor. She stood before him, her breathing measured, her blade steady, as though every strike had been nothing more than rehearsal. He glared down at her, mandibles quivering. "If you strike me, the galaxy will burn in war." She stepped closer, gaze unflinching. "Majesty, the galaxy is already burning. You just didn't notice the fire was under your throne." Then, with one precise thrust, she drove the blade between the plates of his chest. The hall fell into silence as the king staggered, eyes wide, his great form trembling. He collapsed onto the shattered dais, claws twitching, ichor pooling beneath him. The senators gasped, whispers erupting like waves against cliffs. Some hissed in terror, others wept, others stared as though witnessing the death of a god. The woman wiped the blade clean against her jacket and returned it to its sheath with ritual calm. She did not raise her arms in victory. She did not gloat. She simply looked at the Senate, her gaze sweeping across every trembling species. "You think me executioner, but I am only the herald. This is not humanity's return. This is its reminder. We are not gone. We are not finished. We are patient." A mammalian senator shouted desperately, "What do you want?" Her smile deepened, sharp as winter sunlight. "Want? Nothing. Humanity never asks. Humanity decides. We decide when silence ends. And tonight, silence is ended." Alarms blared louder from beyond the chamber. Holograms across the walls flickered, showing alien fleets surrounded by shadows. Unfamiliar ships rising from the void, vessels small yet fast, human in design. Senators cried out as comm feeds crackled through, broadcasting panicked voices of their commanders. Unknown fleets, codes embedded in our systems, they were here the whole time. The woman turned toward the great doors, which creaked open at last, revealing only darkness beyond. She spoke without looking back. Extinction was never our end. It was our mask. And now that mask is broken. She paused at the threshold, her silhouette framed against the crimson glow. Her final words lingered, quiet but heavy as judgment. "You will remember this night not as the end of humanity, but as the beginning of your reckoning." And with that, she stepped into the dark as the Senate behind her dissolved into chaos, the emblem pulsing brighter, beating like the heart of a predator that had never truly died.